Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to Mommy Mondays. You guys, I am super excited about having some conversation tonight. I mean, it's going to be good. Listen, I can't talk about everything. It's stuff I don't know. I never said that I was the end all be all of all information. So tonight, I'm excited to be able to share some information with you guys through a brilliant mind, mother who is willing to share her story in the way she's navigating life. But listen, before we jump in, of course, you are here on YouTube. So guess what? Go ahead, click the link, like, share, subscribe, all the things so that we can make sure that the message is getting out to the masses. I know we're transitioning from Facebook. Let me help you. Come on over to YouTube and hang with me. Okay, listen. And before we get started for tonight, as a reminder, the Walker Family Scholarship is live. It is active for graduate students at the Alabama State University. Listen, you can click the links in my Instagram bio, in my Facebook bio, in my Twitter bio, all the things, okay, where you can give to our family scholarship so that some graduate students at Alabama State University will be able to, guess what? Get rid of that balance, okay, and not have to stand in the line at financial aid, okay? Listen, we're trying to make something happen, okay? So if you would love to contribute, we coming up to the fourth quarter. If you're a business, it's a tax write-off, and I know you got some money left over. Yes, come on in. We want to make sure that's happening, okay? So listen, tonight, I am super excited to have my guest, the beautiful mom, Miss Brittany Patterson, who's going to share some information with us. So listen, Brittany, welcome, my love. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Listen, I won't complain because even if I did, who would want to listen?
I mean, we all have complaints, but
We all have complaints, right? But, it's Monday, so we
right.
won't worry about it.
One day closer to
Listen.
Friday.
Listen, okay? Well, Mondays are good days. Mondays are good days. Mondays are good days. Mondays are good days. If we say it, it is so.
Right.
So, Brittany, tell people who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
I am Brittany Patterson. I currently am an HR specialist, and I also have my own business, um, Cam K Designs, where I make baskets for anniversaries, for birthdays, holidays, Easter, Mother's Day, Valentine's. And I also do have a small consulting business that I've started. I'm currently doing payroll and HR duties for a business right now, and I'm venturing out to do other businesses. And then I do it. I really started doing everything with my kids in mind. So Cam K Designs actually came from me just doing the things that I do for my kids. And one of my friends, Nashiba, if she's on, hey girl, she actually gave me the idea to start doing baskets. So I literally was telling her, like, hey, I'm going to be doing Easter baskets for my kids. And she's like, you know what? I totally forgot. Can you do two for my girls? And I was like, sure. So I've been doing this since they were little, never like really put any thought into it. I thought that's what all moms did. And I put her, two baskets together. She's like, oh my God, you should sell them. I did a Snapchat video and I posted it on my stories, and someone was like, "Do you sell these?" And I thought about it and I was like, "Yeah, I can, start selling them." And then within like a week, I had like 70 orders. So
I'm
that's
sorry,
really
let's take a pause. Did you say 70, 70?
70 orders. And that's between Alabama and Georgia. And then I think I may have shipped a couple. I can't really remember. Um, so yeah, that I really basically started off one person, asking me to do something, which I do a lot of things, just, people asking me. I also make blankets, I do tutus, I make bows, um shirts. I just do little things, but it's mostly just for friends and family. And I'll post it here and there, and people ask me, or ask, can you do this? Like, just dabble in and see how it works, and then I'll do it. So that's really how that started. And as far as my second business that I'm creating, that's just what I do every day. I do HR, and I've been doing HR for about 10 years. And I got my degree from Alabama State, and then I went on I went on to get my master's in HR from Troy, and then another master's in finance from South University. So I do have the background to do all of this stuff, and somebody else asked me to help them, and that's how I got the second business. So that's just a little bit about me, and my life is really when people hear like all the stuff that I do, and they're looking like, when do you go to sleep? And I was like, I go to sleep. How long I sleep is the question. So yeah,
The number
but
one thing I heard in all that you do is make sure your circle is tight, because it seems to me like what's happening is somebody's like, Brittany, you should sell that. And
yeah,
it
literally
works.
every single thing that I've done. As far as like blankets, the first blanket I made, it was for my son. They asked me, they was like, "Mommy, I want this," and I saw it, and I was like, "I can make that. That's easy." So I made him a Black Panther blanket. And then just off a whim, somebody else asked me to make one. I made it, and it went from there. Um, but a lot of the stuff that I do is I'll literally, somebody say, "Do you make this?" I'll go on YouTube, I'll watch. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's fine." I'll do a couple of them, and boom, I have another thing to do. Another friend, Nikita, she asked me to actually do a tutu, like a design. I was like, "Girl, where you find that picture at? Because how you think I can do that?" But I did it based off just looking at and researching how to do it, and she loved it. So my whole thing is, if somebody asks me to do it, if I know for sure I can't, then I'll tell them like, "No, that might be a little too difficult for me." Go to somebody who specializes in that. But if it's something that I can dabble in, and I have the time to do it, I'll tell them like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I mean, the thing about me is, if you're the first person to ask me to do something, a lot of times I'll just say, you know, um, let me see what I can do. And if I don't feel that it's perfect enough for you to have, then I'll tell you like, "Hey, I don't really like how it turned out. Let me do it again. If it doesn't work the second time, then go ahead and find somebody else." Because I don't want you to wait on me. And I'm a perfectionist too. So that's another thing about me. Um, when it comes to anything as far as business or even personal, I'm a perfectionist. So I never want to give somebody the wrong idea or give them something that I have did or didn't put enough energy behind. And I have told people, I'm like, "Hey, I know that you asked for this last minute, and to be honest, I can't do it because I have 10 more to do for
Right.
you. So you have enough time to find somebody else to do it. Next time, just let me know beforehand." And that happened with Mother's Day baskets. People would hit me up on Mother's Day, and I'm like, "I can't." When I tell you I had so many
On Mother's
baskets,
Day?
yes, Mother's Day, they were DMing me, and I'm just like, I don't even have any more left. Like, I would have to make you one, and that means I have to go to the store, and that means unfortunately I'm gonna have to charge you a little bit more because you waited till the last minute. So yeah, I had like 3 to 5 people ask me on Mother's Day, and I'm like, I'm a mother too. I gotta rest. So I'm like, no, unfortunately I can't. So yeah, I've actually, I did pretty well with those things. And even though they're seasonal, it is one of those self-care things that I like to do. Um, and it kind of, as a mom, sometimes you just have one of those days. And sometimes I'll pull out a blanket and I'll just make a blanket. It may not even be for anybody, just making one for display, just so I can feel, good about myself, I guess, for that day.
Yeah.
Or make me have a space of being maybe upset about something that happened at work, or maybe the kids are just doing too much stuff. And then that's a way that I kind of deal with it, as well as those baskets. going out and finding things for women for self-care purposes, because as moms sometimes we don't take care of ourselves, or we're the last ones to actually we'll put ourselves last, and then kind of can't fill from an empty cup. So
Yes, we leave
a lot of times,
ourselves
yeah,
in
a
the
lot of
dark,
times
in the
I'll
dust.
go, yeah, a lot of times I'll go and go look for stuff, and I'll be like, what would I want in a basket? Um, and then there's been times that I've given to women that I know going through something. I'm like, hey, just take this basket. I mean, it has some wine, a candle, um, some face scrub. Just take the last hour of your day and just relax and get some me time, because we all need that, regardless of if you're a stay-at-home mom or you're working all day or you do both. You still need to take time out for yourself, because your kids cannot and will not survive if you're not, putting some energy into yourself.
Yeah. And that's so true. And I know at the beginning of this, you said that the reason you got into your crafty business,
Hmm.
and the reason you got into HR was because of your boys. Talk a little bit about, and you said something that I do this because I thought this is what all moms do, all parents
Yeah,
do. So, talk a
yeah.
little bit about what it looks like for you to care for your boys right now in this season.
To be honest, really starting off, especially like doing t-shirts and baskets and stuff, that was actually my way of pretty much saving money. So I I'm not sure about how many people are familiar with being a single mom, but I'm a single mom. So a lot of things I wasn't able to get my kids at the time. So instead of buying stuff, I would make stuff. So Walmart would have t-shirts for $2, or you can buy for $1, and I would go and find a design and put it on a shirt. There's your shirt. So I only spent $2 on a shirt as compared to $4 or $5. So that's really how it started. It started because I needed to make sure that my kids were taken care of by any means, and then being creative on doing that. And ultimately, it became a business. You never want your kids to feel like you can't get them what they want. So if I have to go make them something so they feel like they're getting what they want, then that's what I have to do. Um, I got a Cricut, I got, a heating press and all that stuff to get started. And I one time was even making like their lotions and stuff out of what was I using? Essential oils
Yeah, you don't have to
and
tell me I made lotions,
yeah. So I was doing
chapstick.
all that stuff because they both have eczema. So I was like researching like what was good for eczema. So of course coconut oil and things like that. So I literally bought this stuff and I researched like what type of oils and stuff, and I made all their stuff to use and put little scents in there, and they were good. Like, didn't have eczema spots, none of that stuff. So I was literally just being frugal. So I started that way, and that's pretty much how a lot of stuff transpired for me. Um, and to be honest, I will say a lot of times people see being a single mother as something that's negative, but I really understood, as they say now, my assignment. So at first, it's hard. You're like, oh my God, like these kids are here all day, every day, especially with COVID. I was like, my God, I need a break. So I kind of got creative with things. I started, making workbooks and doing art projects. And we would go to like Michael's when they had those weekend projects, and we would do that, $5, $10, and you got a whole project, and then you got an outing. So I would do stuff like that, or we would go to the park and we would go find like this time of year leaves, and then we would take the leaves and we would paint the leaves and we'll make a picture. Just things like that. They don't know that it's cheap, but they just see it as something fun to do in an art project. All kids love art. Um,
Absolutely. And
you
that's
take
so
like
good. That's
yeah.
so good.
So And then of course you get your with the leaves, you get your science in there because you like, why are the leaves changing? And then you're in nature, and then you're talking about insects, and you're talking about plants. You get that. And then we have other things that we'll do, planting flowers. Certain times of year flowers are cheap. Or we'll do a garden, and then you'll learn about, plants and how they grow and things of that nature. So a lot of the things that I've been doing with them, it's been a learning experience or it's been an art experience, and they haven't even realized like what's going on. And we're not even going to go into baking because that's a whole nother lesson in itself. And then you get the arguing of who gets to lick the bowl and all that stuff. So,
But you're creating memories. And, I
yeah.
know for me, like, things that I never forget, and my mom will never let me forget. She's like, when you were a kid, I could put you a peanut butter jelly sandwich in a paper bag with some chips, and your aunt would take we were all, me and my cousin, we were 6 months apart. And so we thought we were sisters. And so
Yeah.
they would take us to the park with our brown bag sack lunches, and we would think we were at a restaurant. We were having us a good time out at the playground, blankets and snacks. And, for a lot of us, we felt like, oh, this is a big deal. We're doing something
Hmm.
great. But like you said, as children, we don't know that,
Right.
oh, this is the cheap, this is
Right.
the bargain way, the bargain way. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean, but I think a lot of parents, and I can't speak as a single parent because I know that you are, but I know that a lot of parents in general feel like they have to do the expensive things, feel
Hmm.
like they gotta, the birthdays and all of these holidays that they feel like they have to do the expensive things. There are some amazing ways, even just like you just shared, that you can spend time with your children
Right.
without having to spend all of your money.
Exactly. Because I
And
mean,
so,
to be honest, the single most important part about being a parent is making sure your kids are secure. So security comes with, making sure they have light, water, clothes, shoes, food, all that stuff. That's your number one priority. Not making sure they have name brand or organic per se. I mean, if that's what you want, that's good, and if you can afford it. But our main thing is to make sure that they're well taken care of, not, making sure they have the most expensive. But as long as, like my mom used to say, as long as your feet covered and your head covered, you're fine.
hello,
So,
hello.
and then, although my family is majority in Alabama, I do have people in Georgia. My brother is here, who is one of my biggest supporters. I have friends who, are here, and we do play dates and stuff like that. And then my family in Alabama, when I do go back, I mostly go back maybe like once a month. They do help out, and they'll ask me like, what do they need, or do they need anything, or can we help, or they'll say, hey, can you bring them down here and we'll take them off your hands for a day or so. So I do appreciate that. Yes,
Yes,
because
come on,
like
support system.
yes, because when the school calendar comes out, I call Mimi and I'm like, Mimi, what days do you want? Because I need a break. These kids are really crazy. But yeah, and my parents aren't retirement age yet, but my mom does work with the school system, so she does have a lot of time that she can take off. And she will ask, she'll say, hey, when are they out for this or when are they out for that? And can we get them? And then usually, my kids are very happy to go.
Yeah.
Leaving is the hard part. By them being the only two grandkids, they get their way. So,
Oh yeah.
you
Oh,
know
I
how that
get
goes.
it. My kids are my mother's only grandchildren, so I know how that goes. I know how
Yeah.
that goes. Well,
And
I
I'm
know
just
that
like,
your kiddos are 6 and 7, like my kiddos, and you made the transition to being a single parent. What things have you seen in your kiddos throughout the transition from, going into being a single mom? What are some things that you've seen in them, maybe some changes or things that you had to discuss or, help them navigate with you being a single mom?
so when me and their dad separated, I think that was 4 years ago. So that would have made them 2 and 3 pretty much. Um, so my 2-year old, he really nothing really kind of phased him. He's a mama's boy anyway, so it was like, whatever. My oldest one, it did kind of affect him more, so because he remembered more, so he would be like, so where's my dad? And I was like, oh, you can talk to your dad, and I had to keep reiterating like, hey, daddy has a house, mommy has a house, it's fine, you'll go to daddy's house on these days. And it did kind of take a toll on some of his behavior at school. But over the years, when I say a real turnaround, it was a real turnaround. Like, it would be days I would just sit and I'm just like, what is wrong with this child? Like, why is he acting out? So, we discussed and we talked about it. And, with maturity, he's gotten way better. Like, the teachers are like, he's the most exceptional student and he's so good. And now, I mean, I will say this. A lot of times when people go through divorce, they're like, well, what about the kids? What about the kids? And I'm gonna suggest this to anybody who is going through anything. This is even if you're married. Therapy helps because my therapist, thank God for her, she told me, she said, kids kids go through any and everything.
They're very
They
resilient.
they're resilient and they roll with what you roll with. So if you put up with, foolishness and craziness, then they're gonna put up with it because they're gonna think it's normal. But if you let them know, like, hey, right now, this is what it is, this is how it's gonna be. I know it's not like what you're used to, but we're gonna get through it, and they're gonna get through it. They go through what you go through, but why do you want to put your kids through something that you wouldn't want to go through? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I'm not gonna lie, I did ask my therapist about my kids being in therapy because that's a lot to deal with for any age. So she suggested yes, and I did take them to therapy. With COVID, it kind of, we kind of had to stop. But the therapist was like, no, they're actually navigating through it pretty well. They understand what's going on. And, they have other role models and people that, that care about them that are actually helping them, that they get it. They get it. They know, okay, mommy and dad aren't together, but they get along. We don't go without. Um, we're still okay. We still live in a house. We still eat. Everything's fine. It's just not what some other families look like. Some families look different. Some families you have mommy and daddy that live in the same house. Some families you have mommy lives in one house. Some families you have grandparents and mommy living in the same house with the kids. It's different makeups, but it doesn't mean anyone loves you less. Like, well, on the positive for the kids, they're like, well, instead of getting one Christmas, we get two. Or instead of having one set of toys, we have two sets of toys. I have this at mommy's house and I also have this at daddy's house. So my oldest who just loves stuff, for him it was like, oh, well, that means I get two Christmases. Okay, well, I'm kind of cool with that. My youngest one, like I said, he's so nonchalant and laid back, it just doesn't really phase him. His thing pretty much is, as long as I get to eat and I get to play, I really don't care what none of these people do. So that's pretty much how he is and how he thinks. But um, just navigating through single parenthood. Um, like I said, therapy helps. Group support groups help. Even Facebook groups. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, other single moms, but moms. Because at some point in time, we all know that moms kind of do a lot more than dads. Not saying that we all do, but at one point in time, we are doing a little bit more. Um, and we all understand how it is. I mean, it's nothing, putting down the dads, but if you've ever breastfed a child, then that is not a lot that a dad can do unless he's like changing diapers or he's helping if you have another child. And that's just being honest. Because if that child that's breastfeeding, even if they do the bottle, 9 times out of 10 they're very clingy. So, you know, that
But I think that's
is
all good because you said some good things that are, that can really help somebody because when transition happens just in life in general,
hmm
there's some, change is something that we all have to adapt and adjust to. And I tell people this all the time. Everybody in my house knows about therapy. Like,
hmm
and even when my husband and I, if we don't hide that. It's like, hey, daddy's having his therapy session, hey, mommy's in therapy, my daughter has a therapist. Like, we don't hide that. And I do believe that being open and transparent about it, obviously in Black and brown communities there's such a disparity when it comes to um telling people your business or therapists
Right.
sense. And so the
hmm
idea that you were, completely open to making sure they were okay, and the therapist like, yeah, they're good, give that confirmation, but just the opportunity for them to be exposed to it so that
Right.
they know, even later on in life, if something
hmm
comes up that they're questioning or they need to navigate and they don't want to navigate it on their own, hey, this is a way for you to do that. Now, for
Right.
you as mommy, like, what was the, I don't want to say the hardest, but what was the biggest transition for you, transitioning into mommying on your own? What was the most difficult thing about the transition?
I think for me, it was doing it by myself. Like, you have somebody that's here to help, even if it's not as much as you would like, but you still have somebody who may, drop the keys off and pick the keys up and may do laundry or whatever chores that y'all split up. Now it's pretty much you have to do everything. So you have to figure out how to do it. So time management came into play, getting assistance help, you know, asking for help, which I'm the last person, my parents have scolded me for years. You can't wait till the last minute to ask for help. But I'm like, well, I like to figure things out on my own. If I can't figure it out and I do ask you for help, then that's a light bulb to you that I couldn't figure out any other way to get it. So I had to come to you.
Mm.
Um, and that's basically how I got into buying crock pots and having Alexa like have certain things times and making sure that certain things I did on certain days. Like even now, my kids know on Wednesdays that's cleanup day. So that means you need to clean your room. That means we're going to make sure all the trash is out. That also means whatever laundry hasn't been folded and put up needs to be put up today. I don't clean up all Wednesday, but I make sure that a majority of it is done. And what I don't do on Wednesday, I do on Saturday. But that's just you have to come up with some type of plan and some type of management because you're doing it ultimately by yourself, unless your kids are older. Now that they're 6 and 7, they can make up their bed, they can put up their toys, they can clean up, their rooms, they can put up their laundry. Certain things before, I was doing it pretty much on my own. So I had like a pretty much a chore chart. So on Monday I made um, you know, wash clothes. Tuesday I may clean the living room and the kitchen. Wednesday, I may vacuum. So it was just making sure that throughout the week I was doing something every day, not trying to tire myself out or, be
But just making
overwhelmed.
progress.
Yeah, because it's hard. And with toddlers, it's hard to keep anything clean because as soon as you clean it, they're pulling out something else. So
Mhm. Stretch your
it was
hands
like,
this
you
way.
know
Stretch your
what?
hands.
We just gonna hide all that stuff. We're gonna put all that stuff in y'all room, so I ain't gotta worry about it. But you have to come up with a system. And then if you do have, I know for me, both of them were in daycare. So I would have some days off. So the days that I had off and they were in daycare, I would either one say, forget all this stuff, I'm just gonna rest today, or I would take the time that they were in school to do that stuff and then rest. Because being single doesn't mean that you have to be tired all the time. I mean, and then also they go to their dad's house too. So those days that they do go to their dad's house, I would have time to like clean it and stuff like that. And I will say this. This might sound real crazy. Um, but at the time, I was like, oh my God, my life, what is going on? But that was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And that's because I realized so many things that I thought were positive weren't. And that came with, not having time for myself. They came with not speaking up for myself. They came with not voicing my opinions before things like blew over because I was so nonchalant, laid back. A lot of stuff I let slide that I shouldn't have. And, they always say out of some form of pain comes, a form of enlightenment about yourself and progress. And then also at the end of the tunnel, there's always a light. So I figured out, you know, it took me 4 years to figure this out, but I figured out that a lot of the things that I thought that I didn't need, I did. And one of those things was my family. Um, and I'm really close to my family. And I saw over the years I got a little distant. And you think, when you get married, you have your own family, you make your own family, you make your own memories, but then you can't forget those who actually help you get to where you are. So I think throughout these 4 years, I've gotten the light bulb that I need my family regardless of what happens, even if it's just say, hey, I'm coming out for the weekend and my kids get to see their cousins. To me, that's a benefit. Even if it's driving 3 hours to, for them to get to know their family, that's a benefit for them because you never know who they're going to need. If something was to happen to me or their dad, then they have no choice but to go with family, right?
Right.
So you have to know who's your family and you have to be able to, understand like, hey, these are my family. This is my family. They're going to care about me. And then it also gives them an opportunity to spend time with their cousins, get to know them. They're learning to build bonds and things like that. So, I learned that lesson as well as how to communicate feelings instead of being one of those people to, be laid back and, let stuff roll off your shoulder. Because ultimately, all that stuff's going to harbor and it's going to come out. And then it's not going to always come out as something positive, which
Right.
also therapy teaches you. Like, you can't just hold in all these feelings and it not come out in some form or fashion. It can come out in resentment. It can come out in rebellion. It can come out in being despiting the person and just, all types of things. So I've learned through being a single mother that, your village is as important as yourself. Because ultimately, you don't want to take on all this stress, of being a
Yeah.
parent by yourself when you have people who are willing to do it. So, to anybody who is going through it, make sure that you're utilizing your village. And if you don't think you have a village, reach out to a friend. I mean, there's support groups. Um, Somebody, if your kids are in daycare, I'm pretty sure there's parents that are there going through the same thing. If your kids are in school, I'm well aware there probably are parents who are definitely going through the same thing. So, um, never, think that you're by yourself because you're not.
And that's a good point, Brittany, because I think a lot of times what happens, like you said, you get married and you're so focused on creating your own family, your
Hmm.
own circle, your own bond, that sometimes there are relationships that are, I'll say, weakened, just
Hmm.
because you're trying to make something else strong, and
Hmm.
so finding that balance. And then too, maybe there's someone who's watching who's like, well, I don't have family, but like you said, that bond between friends,
Right.
finding just the people in your circle, creating that group of people, that group of support, the village, the tribe, that you can depend on, not just yes people, but people who
Right.
will also correct you when you're wrong. And you
Hmm.
have to be open to that correction as well. And so I think that the tribe is so important. That support
Yes.
system, so important, because even for me, my husband works a lot. And so I know I have friends who, when they're in that same predicament, they say, oh, I feel like a single parent,
Hmm.
because the spouse, whomever the other person is always working and they're tending to the children on their own. But the difference is, and I bring this up, and I brought this up when I had a conversation with the other Brittany, because she's a single mom as well. You know, when a married person says they feel like a single mom, that statement could be true, but they're not,
Right.
because you have somebody to, like even me, I have somebody, my husband, he may work all day, but when he get out, I'll be like, okay, all right, I need my hour.
Right. You
Like,
can clock out for at least an
wipe,
hour.
I'm wiping this sweat off my brow. I need my hours, sir. I don't get my lunch break. I don't get like, I need it.
Right.
Let help me, help you, help me. Okay. And so I think that for single moms and single dads that are out there navigating that space with your children, I think what Brittany said is so key, that you make sure you have the support. Don't leave people by the wayside who love you,
Hmm.
who have your best interests at heart, who desire for you to be well. Don't leave those people by the wayside. As a single parent, take hold to people who take hold to you, that have your best interest at heart. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. But
Right.
Brittany, we've been here almost 40 minutes. And so before we prepare to go tonight, I would love for you to share, you know, um, just three things, that you would like for moms, dads, people who care for children the most. What are three things that they missed this whole video and they're just coming in towards the end? What are three things that you would like for people to know about motherhood, about parenting, about being a single parent, about divorce, about navigating that space? Whatever it is that you want them to know, what would you say to them?
The first thing I would say is make sure you have that village in place. Because ultimately you're gonna need somebody. If you get sick, you're gonna need somebody. Even if you're well and you just need a break, you're gonna need somebody. Secondly, if you are going through divorce or being a single parent in general, I think it's good if you have a therapist. Like you stated earlier, a lot of times in our communities, we see therapy as something negative, but it's really not. You have a person who really doesn't know you to just sit and listen to you. How many times do we get that? Just somebody who sits to listen, doesn't judge, just listens to you. And then they kind of give you feedback on, what they heard and if they heard it correctly, what it could mean for you. It's like medicine for your spirit, pretty much. That's how I look at it. Medicine for your spirit. And then the third thing I would say is just to take time for yourself. Um, and make sure that you're not pouring from an empty cup, because if you are, you're not helping anybody, not even your kids. Because ultimately, our purpose as parents is to make sure that our kids are upstanding citizens and they're well taken care of. And you can't do that if you're not here. So, ultimately, my whole perspective on life is making sure that I'm well so that my kids are well. As they say on the airplanes, you have to make sure that you are able to breathe before somebody else can. So ultimately, we have to make sure as parents that we are well taken care of, that spirit, body, mind, before we can even attempt to have our kids, do anything. So make sure that you're together, and you if you need help, you seek that first, and then you have your children so that they can navigate through this world better than we did.
Listen, so good. Great advice, Brittany. Listen, I told y'all in the beginning, I can't talk about everything because I haven't experienced everything. And I'm always grateful when I bring people who add value. Brittany, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
being so open and willing to share your story and where you are and help other moms, dads, single parents navigate that same space. And as always, before we go, we like to pray and make sure that everyone is covered and well. And so we say the same prayer all the time. So in all things we do, I hope that you have clarity, and that in every way, in every place that you go, that your mind will think of him, your eyes will see him, your mouth will speak of him, your ears will hear him, your heart will beat for him, the blood flowing through your veins will be for him, your hands will be lifted to worship him, and you can walk within the footsteps that he has designed. And anytime you lay down to rest, I hope you awaken, refresh, renewed, and restored. I thank you guys so much for being here with me. Thank you again, Brittany. This was so
No problem. Thank you.
good. I appreciate you. You guys, this has been Mommy Mondays, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye. Mommy. You just help somebody. Help me. What you got?